Welcome back to Main Street Living. We've covered a lot so far today, guys, but now we want to turn our attention to helping children.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you guys well know, we're spending a lot of time cooped up, a lot more time on social media, a lot of us away from people that we care about, and that can be kind of anxiety producing. So not only adults, right? Children, young adults are also affected by anxiety. Here to talk to us about that, we have educational consultant Kim Bisset. Kim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Kim, young adult anxiety, child anxiety, what are the signs, the symptoms that we should be looking out for?
I think the critical thing is really a change in behavior. So when someone, the young adult or the child, is not behaving the way they typically do, so if they're usually not isolating and they're isolating, or they're kind of, the definition of a young adult, they like to be on their own a lot. But if they're isolating to the degree that it's kind of troubling, or it's very, there's a big difference in their behavior, that's something to definitely check in on. Or if a young adult is not very talkative, or a child, and then they become really talkative, like, oh, I'd like to talk with you. Can we chat about this? A big sign might be like, oh, can we watch a movie, when they're looking for more attention than they don't usually talk about. So we're literally watching the change in behavior and just checking in with the child or the young person to say, like, hey, how are things going? What have you been thinking about? Not really aggressively looking to the child, but or the young adult, but just kind of checking in to say, hey, is everything going okay? Are there things on your mind? Things you want to talk about? A good walk is great to kind of check in. Shooting some hoops is a great way to check in. Young adults especially tend to talk more when they're doing something. I take my kids out to the field almost every day, rain, cold, and just they always talk about things. Like, my son just told me this random thing on YouTube he just saw, and I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. So really checking in and being present and listening is key. Listening.
Right. And I think it's easy at this time for parents to be overwhelmed, and they are not immune to stress. In fact, some people would say they attract stress. Yes. So what advice can you give to parents so that they're not passing that stress on to their kids?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think, just like dogs pick up on stress, kids pick up on stress, to kind of find things that de-stress you, whether it's a yoga class online or talking to a friend, setting aside that time. Maybe exercising can be a key thing. Not getting too caught up in the news. I recommend to people, don't have the TV on the news all the time, because that can really get you really geared up. I have a friend who was like, I just couldn't stop watching, and then had difficulty sleeping. So to kind of check your own stress and say, like, maybe I need to go for a walk, and you can go for a bike ride. There's lots of yoga classes online, or any kind of classes almost are online, or a great audio book or a great book. Finding ways to de-stress yourself so that you're not bringing that to your children.
Sure. And then we know that young adults, especially using social media a lot, it can be something where it helps us feel connected, but it can also be anxiety producing. So what kind of advice would you give on social media consumption right now?
Yes, absolutely. To really limit the social media, because you can go from news feed to news feed to news feed, and it can really feel like really get you geared up. So to try and talk with, especially your young adults, about, it's great to be on a video game with a friend of yours. For example, we have a couple young kids that my son gets on the video with, and we do it every day at 3:00. So they know that they're on, and they're already, they look forward to that after they have done their schoolwork and done a couple of things. And we know that we go out right after that, after they spend a lot of time. So kind of not getting so worried, because we're in such an unusual time with COVID-19, but just to be aware of it, and then to let the young person have an outlet. Maybe use that as like, oh, after you finish that report, or after you finish that, everyone's on Google Classroom, then you can go on for an hour or two, and then let's get outside, let's do something, or help with dinner, making desserts. My kids love to make everything. So if you can balance, there's no such thing as balance in the world of COVID-19 right now. I call it integration. So we'll do one thing, then we'll mix it up and do another thing. Try not to have, the social media dominate or the video games dominate, but integrate them in. Absolutely. And of course, some days are going to be out of whack, and that's okay. Some days I do really well at work, and my kids don't do as much as their schoolwork. And another time, my wife will do really well with her work.
We're not limited to quarantine, right? Some days everything is out of whack.
Yes, exactly.
That's just the way it goes.
Exactly.
But thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. We appreciate you sharing your insight. I know you have a lot more information. I know your company, your website can offer some additional resources, but in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us.